I'm here in Brisbane talking to Denise Reichenbach. Is that right?
Yes.
I said it properly, yes.
You did say it properly.
And the first question I want to start off with, which is kind of highlighted by the fact that I pronounced your name right, is that you're actually originally from Germany.
Yes, exactly.
Tell me the route that took you to here in Brisbane as a practicing artist.
So, I am originally from Germany, so I come from a very small place, a very small village, what used to be former East Germany, and it's in Thuringia, like the state is Thuringia, and I usually don't say the name of the village because nobody really knows it anyway, but it's not too far from Frankfurt, and and Leipzig is probably 200 k's away from there. So that's where I grew up, and then I went to Leipzig to study and lived there for 11 years. And then, so a lot of things at that time, I finished my first degree that I studied there. And then I had, met my long-term ex-partner at the time, or was my partner at the time, and we both decided to travel, and we went to Australia and traveled for a year and a half from almost 2 years actually through Australia, and then decided to stay, and thought that Australia was really, really great, and how should we get a visa, and so through my first degree we got a visa and ended up in regional Queensland in Gladstone, and that's where we stayed and got the visa, and then just got permanent residency, and then just one led into another, and then 10 years later I'm still here.
So what was it about Australia?
For a lot of Germans, or definitely what it was for me, was the wilderness, like the vastness and the freedom of just like nature. It was just absolutely mind-blowing. So in Europe you don't really have that. Like you do have places like in Romania or in Eastern Europe where things are still wild, but the actual vastness and the wilderness that we experienced when we traveled was just absolutely significant and magnificent, and that was really the reason. It was just like this land is just mind-blowing. And then also at the time there were worries, not so much that I had, but more that came from my ex-partner, about when we came to Australia, like in East Germany, there was quite a high unemployment, and it's still different to West Germany. So the idea was, how it would be great to just have, two places to go to and always have that option, that because there wasn't so much work at the time, so having like permanent residency, you always can go somewhere else. It sounds a bit silly, but anyway, that was the idea.
No, I suppose it opens your options, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because I always think about that too.
Yeah, so that was the idea at the time, And, so like logical reasons, and then really the love for the land. And that has never stopped, like for me. Really is still that, this is something in this land that I can't, I don't know how to say it, but it's just really, really special. Even my mum says that.
Does that impact on your work?
Yeah, I think when I went back recently, back home for 5 months, a lot of people back there said to me that I would have never been able, or that's not true, not would have ever been able, but that it was really, really important for me to come here for 10 years and not be there at the time, because the way I developed the work and the support that I got here, and I guess less, so in Europe there is a lot of I guess you would call it competition, but also a lot more, there's a real tradition of criticism, which is really great, and I think that's really, really wonderful, and I think we need that. It's very, very important to have that in art. But for me, as starting out, I think in hindsight it was one of the best things to be here and to have kind of almost like a bubble, or almost not actually a lot of contact with the actual art world as such. So I have found that my work, that it gave me that opportunity to really go within and to really find that intuitive, way of working that I'm like practicing.
Yeah.
And obviously, always I have, for the first years, I always had that foundation of Leipzig and figuration. It's still very strong, it's still there. But there is a certain energy or level of freedom here that allows me to somehow have less rules. So when I went back, I also noticed when I was back in Leipzig and was visiting the studios of the people in the Spinnerei and just friends, and and even though it's really amazing, it's so great what they're doing, but you can feel like there is this kind of thing, we have a thing here.
Which is quite prescriptive, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, in some ways.
Yeah.
And I guess that's great because it has been very successful. But then, like through all the travels that I did last year, I kind of really noticed that in some ways it's been very good to not have a posse as such, or like, a school to go to or prescribe to or be with, because it really has opened up, the room to come from a very heart-based exploration of art, or like very intuitive way of working.
So what you're saying in a way is actually having a lack of networks in a way is actually giving you something that not being within a very embedded kind of network of artists.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, I really cherish and need the connection. So that the connection that I have here in Brisbane, with some people, that there's a couple of people that I really trust to come and to say something. And that is it, very beautiful. So I really need, one or two people to come into the studio, and they know the work, and they say, and they know enough, or they know so much about painting, and are really good painters themselves, that I just listen, even though if I don't like to hear it, but I'll listen to them. Yeah. So I'll definitely cherish the networks and having people, like it's very important. But I studied maybe for a year here at the Queensland College of Art, and then I couldn't afford it anymore because as a permanent resident you always have to pay up front, and I was working full time as well, and just couldn't do it anymore. But I realized that everything that I, not necessarily was being taught, but like that I already have a level of practice just of my own passion that is, and the only thing that I would pay for would be the connections and the network, and I thought, well, I can do this all myself. So I basically used the fees that I would have paid for uni and just put it into the studio. And and at the time I really thought, oh, that's a big risk, because you're really just going completely doing your own thing really all the time. So I do like connections with other artists, and I really need them, because at times it gets too isolating, and there's certain things where I think it's important to have guidance, very much so, and also criticism. I don't mind when somebody says, oh, like you haven't worked that out, or you haven't resolved that, like, look at this is how I've done. Like, I'm fine with that. It's actually, I don't necessarily like it, but it's good to hear from somebody who can actually see. But I do trust also that there is an inner guidance that works it out itself as well over the years. So it is a very lonely practice in a lot of ways, because that inner striving of, like, with every body of work, I look at the work and I can see exactly what went well and what didn't, and so I think there's like a self-correcting inner teacher that is there. So both, I guess, you know, having other people, but kind of also, and then having obviously the teachers of, you know, that you look at in books, or you know, go to museums and, you know, look at how the old masters, you know, how they painted. So if I really want to say something with light and dark, or light and shadow, you know, I'll go to them. Or if I feel like I need to have certain skills in order to say something, I'll get them.
Yeah.
So I'll just go to a teacher and ask, you know, can you show me how to do the light in a room? Or, you know, if I want to say a particular thing with composition in the figure, you know, I'll go to them and ask them to help me how to work that out.